Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the technical stage with the security and platform topic. So, I hope you had a good break. And did anyone have a go at the treasure hunt in the partner pavilion? Well, it's well worth it. There's half a lakh almost to win. So that's something you can do afterwards because now we have four exciting speakers coming up, and we're starting on a topic of the future of API security. Now, the lady presenting it is Vandana, who's chairperson of the board of directors of OWASP, or I say it wrong, which is a security forum. Okay, more will be said about this. So, with that, I would like to introduce Vandana. Her accolades are just too much to mention, really, uh, but very established um, in the security field, in the infrastructure field, and with product security. So, Vandana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Lovely to see you and welcome. I see that your deck is up. So really fascinated on the topic, right? I've got a lot to learn myself, and I hope the
Yeah,
the audience will also. Okay, so with that, over to you. Thank you.
great. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. The topic for today is future of APIs, and why I chose this topic because API security is something which is very, very important. It's more of a foundational thing when we talk about something big. We have APIs everywhere. The whole world is driven by APIs. Talk about banks. Talk about transportation. Talk about e-commerce site. Talk about retail. Everyone talks about it. IoT, autonomous vehicles, smart cities. APIs are the most important things when we talk about the whole world and the technicalities. By nature, when we talk about APIs, they expose a lot of information, and that's what we want. But then there are a lot of times there's a sensitive information that gets exposed. For example, personally identifiable information, which is PII. Talk about sensitive personal identifiable information. Could be your credit cards, which we don't want. If we do not have secure APIs, we will face trouble. We have faced trouble. There are many attacks which have happened in the past. They've been really, really nasty. They've been really, really crazy because we missed out on a lot of stuff. Now, when we talk about API security, what we focus on is basically uh, just making sure we have everything ready. We have APIs, we have all the functionalities running at the right pace. What we tend to forget is that how to secure them, how to make sure that the right APIs have the right access. So today I'm going to be talking about covering some of the aspects, what we can do, what we have, and how we can do it better. I hope I would not bore you because it's a quite short session. I'll try to cover as much as possible. A little bit about myself. I'm working as a security relations leader at Sneak, which is a software security company. I'm also working with OWASP Foundation, which is one of the global communities around cybersecurity and application security. I'm currently first Asian, Indian, and a women chair for OWASP. I also run certain diversity initiatives in India, like InfoSec Girls, Kids, and Diversity. At the same time, what I want to talk about is the new innovations that are happening. What do you see this? This is something which is a futuristic image of something what we want. Like, I want to see this growing. I want to see this taking flourishing. So, when we see about the futuristic image, the data is getting uploaded somewhere. I'm sure it is getting used somewhere. It is getting saved somewhere. When that happens, there are certain updates which happens. Now, when those updates happen, there could be sometimes when there is a malicious update. There have been cases in the past when there was an update and there's a malware that has got updated. Or with that update, there's something which is fishy. There's a crypto miner which has been updated. So it's important to see what we are working with. When we are working with these APIs, it's important to understand those endpoints, what purpose they are serving, for how long we want them, how exactly access is designed for them. And the most important aspect is that developers play a very, very important role there. Why do I say that? Because if I don't have the right developer, if I don't educate my developers, the people around who are working on it, they would never be able to get it. I've seen cases in the past wherein security team blaming someone, people blaming someone, but what really is needed is that people working together. Uh, in the beginning of the session, when we were talking about OWASP, there were a lot of people who don't know about OWASP because it's more about software security. Now, I'm here to talk about the future of APIs and what OWASP can do, how OWASP can help as open source, and how the risks are there. For example, the breaches around, so those breaches around APIs, very, very important. Now, think of something which is malware distribution. This event stream incident, this is basically a, a pipeline or something which an application is using, like a package which application is using. And this package is in use since 2011. There were maintainers who were maintaining it, people were downloading it, people were using it, and they made sure that everything went fine. But then people got busy, the project leaders got busy, and after some time, what happened? Somebody said, I want to help out. I want to do this for you. They came, they joined, and what happened? This person added a small crypto miner. So anyone who downloaded the package had that crypto miner. But how exactly it is related? Because it's all about packages. But think about APIs based. So it's server, basically, if I talk about it, server APIs or how APIs are contributing, because server is used to facilitate the APIs, and then the whole components is rendering the information which is sent by the client. So client consume the raw data, but then there are times when we get to know there are endpoints which are open from where we can fetch the information. So right now within API, I'm supposed to fetch user information one, but the endpoint is not configured properly, and all the users which are part of the database, I can fetch the information. How cool that would be for me, but how crazy that would be for someone who is part of the development team. And on top of it, this is the application that we say, think, oh, this is the application we have developed. But this is the only app that we have developed. Rest is all open source. And then the APIs are interacting with it. And the most important part is that we miss out on biggest breaches which are happening around APIs. Now, why do I talk about it? Because when we talk about good things, we need to talk about the bad things which are happening around. It is very, very important. And the most important thing is that to understand why those breaches are there, how those breaches are contributing, and how they're changing the landscape. Now, let me tell you, there are some very, very famous breaches which have happened. And on top of it, when the whole world has said, witnessed that there's no shortage of API related incidents. Even a security research firm called Gartner, they've made the prediction that by 2022, we'll have more and more API attacks, and API abuses will become more frequent attack vector, because now the world lives by APIs. And uh, if I talk about those attacks, in January 2021, there was an attack on Parler, the storming of the whole Capitol Hill on January 6, 2021. It was very, very different event wherein American citizens and also the free world, they got attacked. A number of individuals used Parler, a social media platform, to socialize and coordinate with people. It's more of a digital activist platform. The APIs got breached. And on top of it, what was happened? There was a broken user authentication. There was a broken object level of authentication which was there. And then when you purge the user data, it was not exactly properly configured. And then you try and understand what's the sequence, how exactly data is being managed, scrubbed, and you can abuse the functionality. On top of it, when we talk about security, this club hack leak. Again, this Clubhouse leak was very fascinating, wherein a lot of people are on Clubhouse now. I personally have been there. There are many forums where we publicly speak about it. But then, if we're speaking something because we are speaking openly and there's no one to judge us, so It's important, and you share your data, and then suddenly the leak happens. Similarly, LinkedIn has been part of many leaks, and it's there on the internet. All the information that I've got about leaks, it's there on the public forums. Many forums talk about that, how exactly data is being used at many places by one API, just one single API which is open. Similarly, it goes with Knox player breach, and then it doesn't stop there. It just goes to different level altogether. In March 2021, Microsoft Exchange Server. So Microsoft discovered and disclosed an attack campaign coordinated by some group, which is targeting Exchange Server 2013, 16, 19, and much more. So the initial attack vector was server-side request forgery, which means to fetch the data from the server in plain words. And what they did is that when they realized, they actually had to close down the API. But it's important to understand what APIs we use and for how when we need to shut down those APIs, because those broken user authentication to security misconfiguration can lead to many, many big breaches. And on top of it, the impact of these incidents are substantial, resulting in number of uh, advisories and whatnot. So it's important that we understand. And on top of it, these whole breaches, this whole API security has led to top 10, top 10 list. Like, what are the top 10 bugs which are there? So the top one is broken object level authorization. Now, what is that? So APIs basically tend to expose endpoints that handle object identifiers, creating a wide attack a surface level access control issue. So object level authorization checks should be considered when we are talking about accessing the data sources using an input from the user. So it has to be specific, very, very specific. And then we talk about broken user authentication. That has happened multiple times. API is supposed to give access to certain things, and then people have access to anything and everything around. So authentication mechanisms are often implemented incorrectly or by mistake, allowing attackers to compromise authentication tokens to exploitation of implementation flaws. So you can think about it. If I can get access to your ecosystem, I can permanently compromising a system ability to identify the users. That'll be very nice for me. But then it brings us to the point that it actually exposes extensive data. Now, think about the generic implementations which are there. We all tend to expose the object properties without even considering that how sensitive that would be. So it's important that when we talk about these, we understand that how we are filtering the data, how exactly we're masking the data. If we don't do it, we will have issues. And a lot of times that leads to lack of resources, lack of rate limited. So APIs don't impose any restrictions on the size or number of resources that can be requested by the client or user. Not only can this impact the API performance, but also can lead to denial of service attack, where you would not be able to use the service at all, which also leaves the door open to authentication flaws. So I can do anything and everything. Then it comes to broken functional level authentication control. Have you thought, like, there's a functionality and we don't have right authorization there? So think of those all the complex things, policies, hierarchies, groups, roles. They're very unclear sometimes. We don't have segregation. We don't have separation between what is a regular function, what is an administrative function, which leads to authorization flaws. When we exploit these issues, attackers gain the access to the other resources. Then, the most important one, mass assignment, which exactly, if I say that, binding client provided data could be JSON or in the form of JSON data to data models without proper property filtering. Now, this leads to mass assignment, either guessing object properties, I can guess, or exploring the API endpoints, reading the documentation, or providing additional object level information. Then it leads to security based for it. Now, you must be thinking that all of these are related. These small, small things separate them, but then these small, small things lead to one big thing. And then comes the whole injection flaws to improper asset management. It's important to know what your assets are, how exactly you're managing it. Because if you don't know what you have, you would never be able to monitor them. So APIs tend to expose more endpoints than the traditional endpoints. Making proper and updated document is very, very important, or we would never be able to sufficiently log and monitor. It's like an end cycle. Knowing what you have, monitoring it, understanding where the security misconfiguration can happen, because humans are the weakest link and there can be problems anywhere. And then remember these attacks from SQLi to CSRF to all these path manipulations attacks. It is important we have a checklist. Apply multi-factor authentication, encrypt all your data which is needed, then have right authorizations and just-in-time access. If your API doesn't need access anymore, let's shut it down. And it leads to what we can hack. If it doesn't happen, what we're going to do is, as a security person, I'm going to hack it. I'm going to just go ahead and take it anywhere. Now, let me show you something. So this is basically a simple system where I'm using Python, I'm using MongoDB, and I'm using Python 3, where um, the whole information is being called. Now, the problem is not with Python, but it's using Celery Task Worker, a certain version which is vulnerable. Now, here I have started the Celery Task Worker. Now, when the Celery Task Worker is working, sorry about that. Now, generally make sure that I have everything ready. Here, if you're using, there are 3 Python scripts that I'm using. POCBY, where I've configured, in POCBY, I've configured that I want to fetch the information from the server, wherein what is the index ID, what is the OS, what is the executive module, everything. And once I get the task ID, I will set it up in the system, because I was able to execute the task and I was able to modify the metadata. And when I use it to get the information, what I really got is the okay, is the task ID. Now, if you see what I've got a group ID, I've got the groups, I've got everything possible. So if you get the juicy information, what you can do, you can play around with anything and everything. Anything on the server. You can even delete the information on the server. That can be that scary. So one endpoint, if you lose it open, it will be a big trouble. So the whole DevSecOps cycle talks about, let's have agile methodology, let's track everything. And that's how the tracking documentation mechanism works. And the best environment is when dev knows that, yes, this is the APIs these are the APIs we use, and if we don't do it right, we are in big trouble. And then OWASP community is big community. Let's learn from it. And I'm so glad to be speaking at API Days, and it's an honor to be here talking about these topics. I can talk for API security like for days, but then it's a short talk. If you want to know more about APIs, or if you want to know about how to secure APIs, I'm open. We can discuss it. And I would love to hear the issues that you're facing. It's very, very important. So this is like a quick short talk. And if you have anything, you can reach out to me on my Twitter handle. I would love to speak to you. I would really love to speak to you.
Well, that's such a pleasure to hear your enthusiasm, and I can understand why you've won these awards or recognitions for top influencers. So thanks very much, and for also making it accessible, right? Making the topic accessible. So it's an honor to have you at API Days. I'm not sure if you've got some time to address any questions. Um,
What we can do is, we are almost over time, so people can actually reach out to me, my LinkedIn, and even they can reach out to my Twitter handle anytime, and I would love to connect with them. And especially, I'm going to be tweeting more information about API Days, and after the session, I'll be tweeting about the deck, which is part of the session, so that you can have it accessible and all the links. So watch out for the Twitter handle, and even on LinkedIn, I would be tagging API Days and will be sharing all the information.
that's going to be really helpful. And yes, OWAS, that's how to pronounce it. So go look it up. Anyway, Vandana, I realize that the session has come to an end too abruptly. And thank you very much for your attendance, and to everyone who participated. We'll be introducing the next speaker. Thank you.